Reactions Matter by David W. Searcy, Jr. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share the video. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the content.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're having another blessed day. Still trying to get all this. I probably need to make like a box or something that says, hey, you can't go past here. Look, they don't even know which hand's moving. Look, so can't go past what here. Right there. So this is like kind of like where you can go. Anyway, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having another great, beautiful day in the neighborhood. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel. Press that like button. Leave me a comment or two or four. I don't know. Share the video. We're looking at places in the world that could change history. We've already seen a couple of videos where you could actually, history would just be totally just erased and redone. So, let's get into it.
What are the dangers of the Devil's Sea? Why is it forbidden to visit one of the Indian cities after sunset? And how did the mysterious Giant's Causeway appear? You're about to see and find it out. This is Infinity, and in this episode, I'll show you places on the planet that can change history. The Silent Zone in Mexico. For over 100 years, the so-called Silent Zone in Mexico has been considered one of the most mysterious places on Earth. It's a 31-mile area of desert which, like a magnet, attracts to itself all the strangest and most inexplicable. The locals regularly report the news about UFOs, some frightening sounds, or mysterious humanoids walking around the territory. It would be logical to assume that this is so only because people want to attract attention to themselves, so they came up with something that would be extremely difficult to believe. However, this place got its name at the beginning of the 20th century, when such bad PR wasn't even thought of.
Like commercials are good.
For example, in 1930, a Mexican pilot lost his direction because he couldn't use the instruments. The equipment malfunctioned. The radio went dead. Soon, the same situation happened to another pilot, after which the authorities made an official statement. It's not safe to fly over this place. The electronics are constantly malfunctioning, and even the compass cannot work correctly here. Of course, when there are so many mystical rumors about the place, it cannot help but interest all fans of the most bizarre and inexplicable. Groups of paranormal investigators set out to find it and began to roam around the vastness of the desert. There are many documentaries and other official data about it, but now I'd like to tell you about one, not the most popular theory, which still exists. So another group of adventurers set out to explore the Silent Zone in the hope of getting answers to all their questions. Upon arrival, the explorers almost immediately discovered strange electromagnetic flashes and unusual radio signals that continuously interfered with the operation of their technical devices. This confirmed all the rumors about the abnormality of the place and only fueled interest in conducting the research. The people started looking for the cause of these troubles, but suddenly, something happened that none of them expected. The gaze of one of the scientists fell on an alien hiding behind one of the huge rocks. The people decided to immediately follow it, and without realizing it, were drawn into a real web of mysticism and mystery. After all, behind this huge stone, there was a secret staircase that led the people down under the sand. A long way led them to a small chamber where there was a secret passage to a huge secret laboratory. An incredible sight appeared before their eyes. An underground city filled with unexplored technology of alien origin. The researchers were amazed by the scale and complexity of this underground country. Gradually, it became clear that all these alien devices and technologies were the source of the problems with electronics and machinery on the surface. Their powerful signals intersected with ordinary radio waves, causing malfunctions and radio interference. It turned out that the aliens were using these technologies for their own needs and didn't realize the impact on humans. Unfortunately, it was not possible to take footage of the scene due to malfunctions. The locals noticed the people very soon and peacefully drove them out. The people pretended to leave but soon turned around and tried to get inside again, but there was no entrance at that very spot. This theory has aroused great interest in the whole society interested in mysticism because reports of humanoids walking in the desert come to this day. It's surprising that everybody, even strangers to each other, describe the aliens in the same way, which would be simply impossible if it weren't true. Nan Madol.
Okay. Would you go visit Zona del Silencio? That's the question of the day. I would. I mean,
This is the name of a small archipelago southeast of the island of Pohnpei in the Pacific Ocean, consisting of more than 100 artificial islets and coral blocks. This place is famous for its unique structure, which it would be almost impossible to replicate by the people of antiquity, no matter how developed and intelligent they were. The fact is that these small islands serve as foundations for castles, temples, and defensive structures. The main research of Nan Madol has been conducted from 1907 until now. Thanks to archaeological finds and research, it was possible to establish that the first settlements in this area emerged around 1200 AD, and the construction of Nan Madol began around the 13th century. The exact purpose and location of the islands is still a mystery, but it's believed that the complex was used as a residence for the elite and a spiritual center for the Micronesian culture. The construction of Nan Madol was a tremendous engineering achievement for its time. It contains more than 100 island platforms fortified by canals on which granite structures are located. Some of these platforms are of unimaginable height. Huge basalt rocks were used to create these structures, and their transportation over significant distances fascinates scientists. Again, it would be unrealistic for humans to do this. Another interesting feature of this place is the absolute asymmetry of its design. The architecture is different from traditional architecture and is a unique combination of ancient techniques and mythological beliefs. Despite its importance and uniqueness, Nan Madol remains a little studied place, and now I'm going to tell you why. According to one popular theory, people who come here to explore either go missing or go insane. It's believed that all these buildings, and even their elements, are literally imbued with mysticism and witchcraft. Allegedly, even the stones on the roads act as peculiar plates, which are activated by the slightest contact with a person. A whole chain of witchcraft starts, which prevents scientists from conducting normal research. No one will ever tell us how true it is, but do you agree that such an interesting and unusual place can still be unexplored by such a curious creature as man? Seems to me that
would you go there? Would you go to Nan Madol?
remoteness from civilization plays no role here. It's all about something almighty, something that was built not by humans at all, but by alien beings, or even more likely, by deities. Rama's Bridge. The alternative name for the next place is Adam's Bridge, and it's a string of shoals and islets 30 miles long right in the Indian Ocean. Yes, you've imagined it correctly. It's a real wall built somewhere in the water. But how could this bridge have been built almost 2 million years ago? After all, there was still water here before, and the people of that time had no opportunities and knowledge to do this, to put it mildly. Indian scientists believe that the Rama's Bridge is a man-made bridge connecting India and Sri Lanka. Once upon a time, craftsmen created a sandbank right in the middle of the water, and on it they erected tens and hundreds of thousands of hewn stone pillars. Thanks to precise calculations, for thousands of years, it was possible to walk here without getting your feet wet. However, no less people are sure of the opposite theory, that this bridge is proof of the existence of aliens or super-developed civilizations. Allegedly, people of that time constantly tried to get from one coast to another and had their ships crashed. The deities took notice and helped the people they themselves had created.
All right. So my question is, why do we think that people of yesteryear were dumb? Dumb may not be the right word, but why do we think they weren't capable of such feats. Like, they didn't, I mean, they used nothing but their minds. Like, that's all that they had. They didn't have all this stuff to get in the way, so it was a lot of, whew, I don't know. I don't get it. Do you think the people of old times were just stupid? I don't believe.
The hand of the desert. You're walking along the sand, somewhere out in the Atacama Desert, and suddenly you come across a giant hand sticking out of the ground. What's your first thought? Of course, it's someone's sculpture, some project, or just a prank. Actually, that's what many people thought until some interesting details came to light. Let's start with the fact that in the Atacama Desert, there really is a hand, and quite a big one at that. This giant thing stands 1,300 feet from the highway and is the left palm of a man, which seems to protrude about 3/4 out of the ground. The height of the sculpture is 36 feet, and its author, according to the official version, is some Chilean. I specified the official version for a reason, because the locals say that they've never seen any sculptor. Yes, according to the author's idea, his work should express human injustice, loneliness, grief, and suffering, and such a hefty size expresses vulnerability and helplessness. Sounds very beautiful and in a way even touching, but don't you think that the creating of such a hand is not a quick job, to put it mildly? The locals would have definitely noticed this, and perhaps would have even been proud. But then, as if in the snap of a finger, this hand appears, and the government assures everyone around that it's someone's monument. Fortunately, I was able to research the case. I dug around some documents and found that in 1992, in the same place, some eyewitnesses had spotted a UFO landing just in the desert area. Only a week later, people found this hand. Don't you think that's a coincidence? It's likely that the sculpture was erected by the aliens, and the government, which decided to hide the truth from the people and not to spread panic, only came up with a curious story, came up with a pseudo-discovery and stuff. Giant's Causeway. Once upon a time, when Earth was still very young, in Northern Ireland there was a superior race of giants who came from another planet. They were incredibly powerful and had incredible abilities.
What movie is
Do
that?
not pay somebody
What
to
movie
build you a
was that?
Shopify store, because I'm going to do it free with 20 handpicked products.
Go to that
They
guy,
possessed
he'll do
such
it for
tremendous
free.
power and wisdom that humans could only dream of such things. Time passed inexorably, and the superior race found shelters in an isolated part of Northern Ireland, where each of them could live quietly away from prying eyes. At the same time, to make it easier for them to travel, they decided to build a road to connect their abode with the outside world. This road, in fact, has survived to this day. It was definitely created with the help of incredible technology, and as they say, some mystical stone with supernatural power. Huge stone steps were carefully laid out by the giants, creating striking columns and shapes that resembled a colossal bridge. These structures were an exceptional feat of engineering that could not be replicated with the conventional means available in those days. Even in modern times, there was no way people could recreate it. Centuries passed in complete misunderstanding and ignorance. Who created it and how? Was there really some advanced race? The further people pondered on this subject, the more we moved away from the truth, which we used to follow so clearly. But recently, another discovery in this unique place made us realize our mistakes. Scientists have discovered a fragment of some ancient device on the Giant's Causeway, which, according to analyses, was made of alien materials. It became obvious that either this was the work of giants or some kind of aliens. And you know, I believe more in the second version, because if the giants really existed, then where'd they all go? Are they frozen in some rocks and waiting for the right moment to come to life again?
Do giants exist? I mean, we got Shaq, but I mean, he's just a big guy. Are giants real?
Bangar. Bangar is a mysterious ghost town in India, considered one of the most famous and scary places in the country.
That looks pretty
There are
cool.
various legends and myths that explain why the town is deserted and why visiting it after sunset is dangerous. One of the most common theories links the curse to the revenge of a disgruntled sorcerer. According to this legend, a powerful sorcerer who lived in this city fell madly in love with a princess. He gave her all of himself, and seriously thought that they had something. But at the last moment, the girl rejected him, and her father, who ruled the town at that moment, punished the entire family of the sorcerer. Maddened by such injustice, the young man put a curse on the city, saying that when all its residents die, their souls will not be able to leave this place and they'll forever be tied to it. Another version says that it was all the fault of some ancient priest who turned out to be deceived by the local nobility. Arrogant people tried to steal his knowledge by torturing him, but the man didn't just give it up. Yes, he left his physical body from powerlessness, but it was still enough to take with him everyone who helped the people and what they had done to him. Their loved ones followed them as well, which soon made the town full of disgruntled ghosts who were evil in life and remain so to this day. It's for these two reasons that locals say it is strictly forbidden to visit Bangar after sunset. The place is full of evil spirits, which are repeatedly reported by tourists from all over the world. Locals and many witnesses persistently claim that they've heard and even seen the ghosts with their own eyes, as well as found traces of unexplained phenomena and sinister acts of cruelty. Devil's Sea. This is the Pacific Triangle, which paranormal researchers constantly compare to the Bermuda Triangle because of the fact that ships and airplanes often disappear in it too. This has been known about for a long time and everyone tries to avoid contact with this area, but there's something about this topic that none of you knew about. I'm talking about a new theory that came out this year. It was put forward by a renowned scientist and immediately gained wide acceptance in scientific circles. Everyone supported it for one irrefutable argument, which I'll tell you about at the end. So the theory is that the Devil's Triangle was created by aliens. These aliens, known as the Vandorians, developed an invisible trap to study and observe the development of Earth's civilizations. Their laboratory is located at great depths, and all those who swim or fly over the place are automatically transported to it. Unique skills of their kind help in this. Basically, it's manipulation. The scientist said he was able to expose one of the missing people using hypnosis, who was later found barely breathing on the shore. As soon as the man was found, he was immediately taken to the hospital and then to the researcher's office. He conducted a therapy session and, as I said, got the truth by hypnosis. After all, memories were still preserved in the subcortex of his brain, although the aliens tried to erase the memory of the people as much as possible. But even this was not the main argument in favor of the revolutionary theory. When this information was leaked to the public, some of the analysts decided to take the water of those areas for examination, and you won't believe it, they found substances in it that are of alien origin. They're responsible for the rapid breaking of molecules, which just fits the theory about the teleportation of objects above the laboratory. Study of this topic is extremely active, and I'll definitely tell you some new details on this topic if they suddenly appear. Look at this.
Aliens.
Bam! HelloFresh. Guys, shrimp spaghetti with the kick is what we're gonna make. You guys know that HelloFresh makes cooking dinner.
This guy trying desperately to resist the elements. He can't stand up straight. He has to use all the muscles in his legs and bend in all kinds of ways. It's very important not to take your feet off the ground because the slightest jump and you're flying. It's hard to believe that such winds are possible at all. But on Mount Washington, it is possible. It's on this mountain, located in the U.S. state of New Hampshire, some of the craziest winds in the world blow. In the footage, the guy confronted the wind, blowing at speeds of 109 miles per hour. That's the wind at the observation deck. But if you go even higher, you'll literally be blown away like a feather. At the top of Mount Washington, a world record was set. On April 12, 1934, the wind speed was 338 feet per second, or 231 miles per hour. That was twice the wind speed at the observation deck. 3 times the strength of the hurricane, and 62 miles per hour more than Hurricane Isabel, which is considered one of the strongest hurricanes in history. To this day, hurricane winds blow at the top of the mountain. By all accounts, Mount Washington qualifies as the windiest place in the world, and in general, it is. Still, it would be more accurate to say that Mount Washington has the strongest wind gusts and the fastest winds overall. However, there are calmer days there as well. This can hardly be said of Commonwealth Bay. It's located in Antarctica and can rightly be called an eternal draft. It's a place many experts recognize the windiest in the world. The bay is even listed in the Guinness Book of World Records. The wind blows here constantly, and it's equal to a storm. The speed of gusts often exceed 124 miles per hour here. The maximum recorded wind speed in Commonwealth Bay was 200 miles per hour, and the average annual wind speed here is 10 times higher than, for example, in Moscow.
Oh no.
It's impossible for people to live here. What kind of life can we talk about at all if you can barely move around here? Scientists say that such fierce winds in this area are explained by the fact that walking on the crescent-shaped bay, the airstreams gain high speed, colliding and merging with each other. That's what creates such a draft. By the way, the local fauna doesn't care. Commonwealth Bay is home to a large colony of emperor penguins and Adelie penguins. It's also home to the largest flock of Antarctic petrel in the world. There are more than 150,000 pairs. Commonwealth Bay and Mount Washington are among places with the most extreme climates in the world, but there are other unusual places on this list that you'll want to know about. Keep watching to see the world's most electric place, as well as the most toxic, driest, and coldest places on the planet. Although thunderstorms cannot be called a rare phenomenon, many of us see a really powerful thunderstorm only a few times a year. But if you go to Lake Maracaibo in Venezuela, you can see several thunderstorms in one day. The Catatumbo River flows into Lake Maracaibo, and you can see virtually endless thunderstorms at its confluence. It's the most electric place in the world, with thunderstorms that can last up to 200 days, and sometimes as many as 260 days per year. The Catatumbo River flow into Lake Maracaibo has the highest probability of lightning in the world, with a staggering 250 lightning bolts per square kilometer. At its peak between 7 p.m. and 4 a.m., one can see up to 28 lightning bolts per minute. Scientists have been speculating for a long time, trying to unravel the mystery of the phenomenon. They've put forward different theories, from mountains of special forms to methane and uranium in local swamps, but so far the nature of the most electric place in the world remains a mystery. Obviously, places like Chernobyl, Pripyat, or Fukushima can be described as toxic and contaminated. After all, radiation did its job. But what about dirty places without radiation? There are such places too. And the most important of them is the Agbogbloshie district in African Ghana. Tens of thousands of people here literally live among landfills, breathing in acrid smoke instead of oxygen. No wonder this place has been called the most toxic and polluted place in the world. Until relatively recently, the area was quite nice, but the local ecology was destroyed in just a few years when they began to massively dump tons of digital waste in Agbogbloshie. Old phones, computers, and other types of gadgets. One can find everything in Agbogbloshie. The dump situation is unpleasant in and of itself, but it's exacerbated by locals who make their living by extracting valuable metals from this garbage. In search of valuable metals and cherished microchips, people have to burn electronic waste in huge quantities. Of course, this takes a huge toll on the atmosphere. So much so that the content of hazardous substances in the atmosphere of Agbogbloshie exceeds the norm by 220 times. All this causes irreparable damage to the health of the local residents.
Yeah, no doubt.
There's an event happening on April 25th, 2024 that they don't want you to know
They're
about.
breathing in some serious.
I'm sure that any tourist who has been to Agbogbloshie would want to wash off all these toxins and filth as soon as possible. Maybe a trip to the wettest place on the planet would do the trick. If you thought I meant St. Petersburg or London, you're wrong. They don't even come close to a village called Mawsynram, which is located in the Indian state of Meghalaya. The name translates as Land of Clouds, and it's aptly suited to the place. The monsoons carry the moisture from the Bay of Bengal between June and September, which condenses over the mile-high plateau of the eastern Khasi Hills. As a result, the annual rainfall here is about 472 inches, roughly 20 times that of rainy St. Petersburg. To give you a better idea of the scale, if the famous statue of Christ the Redeemer, which is 128 feet high in Rio de Janeiro, were erected in Mawsynram, it'd be knee-deep in water. What about the Antipodes? What's the driest place in the world? Here we can speak of two locations at once. The first, of course, is in the desert. I'm talking about the city of Aswan in Egypt. Desert tropical cities in general cannot boast a large amount of rainfall, but Aswan stands out even among them. Aswan receives a mere 0.05 inches of rainfall per year. Not per day, week, or even month, but per year. How little is that? Well, it's about the same as a little rain that falls for about an hour. The locals are only saved by the fact that Aswan is on the banks of the Nile, so there's no shortage of water for the residents, even though rain has never been recorded here in many months. But there's an even drier place on the planet, and oddly enough, it's in Antarctica. It would seem to be the place where it's always snowing and blowing strong winds, as we've already found out. That's right, but there's a place called the McMurdo Dry Valleys. It hasn't had snow or rain for millions of years. Amazingly, in spite of such a drought, there's life here. There are ice-covered reservoirs in McMurdo where algae grow and bacteria develop. In fact, that's it. There's no other life here. The temperature in the dry valleys drops to negative 58 degrees Fahrenheit. And on the other side of the Earth, there's a place where the temperature is 122 degrees Fahrenheit, but marked plus. Many of you know about this place. This is Death Valley in California, in the Mojave Desert. In 1913, the highest air temperature in the Western Hemisphere was recorded here, 134 degrees Fahrenheit, in the shade. But the surface of the land in Death Valley can be heated up to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. This is explained by the fact that the valley is surrounded by mountain ranges 282 feet below sea level. Basically, it's just a huge bowl that absorbs the sun's rays. No wonder it's a living hell there. And finally, let's go back to Antarctica. The continent as a whole is very cold, but there are places with particularly bitter frosts. One of them is Vostok Station. It's the place that is considered the coldest on the planet. The heat here is when the temperature shows 5 to negative 4 degrees Fahrenheit. At the maximum, the temperature here was 7.52 degrees Fahrenheit. And in 1983, the lowest temperature on the planet was recorded here, negative 128.56 degrees Fahrenheit. Severe frosts are complemented by almost complete absence of humidity, winds, rarefied air, and polar nights, which last a third of the year. But despite the fact that this is one of the harshest places in the world, there are scientists who live here and do research. They, by the way, believe that Vostok Station is not the limit, and that there are colder places on the Earth. They're right. It turned out that on the Arctic ridge connecting the Dome Argus and the Dome Fuji, the temperature drops to negative 137.2 degrees Fahrenheit. However, it was found out only thanks to satellites. So officially, the record of Vostok Station has not yet been broken. By the way, there's another very cold place where mysteries and unexplained objects are constantly being found. It's Antarctica. One of the users of the internet has posted a video with interesting information. He reported that viewing the surface of Antarctica with the help of Google Earth program, he found a giant, strange anomaly. Under these certain coordinates, there was seen a huge face resembling either a person or a humanoid. Don't believe it? Check it yourself. Here you can clearly see the nose, eyes, and mouth. Some have noted that on the head there's something that looks like a metal headdress, similar to the helmet of the Vikings. The whole thing looks like part of a giant statue peeking out from under the snow. But UFOologists immediately assumed that the megalithic structure was created by an ancient civilization, which previously lived in Antarctica, and that this is its ruins. In general, there's an opinion among UFOologists that Antarctica has long attracted the attention of aliens, all due to remoteness and lack of study of the continent. Maybe that's where the concentration of many alien bases that humanity so wants to find is located. And the aliens, in turn, can carefully study from there both the planet itself and its inhabitants. That's us. However, there's also a quite legitimate opinion that such a large face is nothing but a massive snow cover. It's just lucky and it lies in such an unusual way, which contributed to such a crazy reaction in the internet. But still, what is it really? Is this really the handiwork of some ancient civilization? Or did nature itself create such a portrait with the help of wind, snow, and ice? These are separate questions. The research expedition will not be able to get there soon enough to check the formation. So let's wait with this mystery for now.
What did you see? I saw a face.
A hole the size of an entire state. In
It
27
kinda reminded me of Planet of the Apes. If you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, it was like Planet of the Apes.
The research expedition will not be able to get there soon enough to check the formation. So let's wait with this mystery for now. a hole the size of an entire state. In 2017, scientists from the University of Toronto used a satellite to observe the continent and noticed a huge hole in the ice in Antarctica. It was comparable in size to Lake Superior in the United States, or to the U.S. states of South Carolina or Maine. The hole is about 90,000 square kilometers. Such ice holes are usually formed in the coastal regions of Antarctica. In this case, however, it mysteriously appeared hundreds of kilometers from the shore. Researchers have noted that in the 1970s, similar ice hole, but 10 times smaller, appeared in the same place. It remained unexplored properly. The lack of technical means did not allow to conduct a full-fledged study. It soon disappeared in a striking manner. And now, according to experts, it's returned. Some put forward the opinion that this could be caused by powerful atmospheric rivers that brought warm, moist air into the polar environment and literally heated the surface of the ice, making it vulnerable to melting. UFOologists, once again, didn't stand aside and immediately volunteered to explain the origin of the hole the size of an entire state. They believe that the giant hole in Antarctica is the work of aliens, who may want to kill the inhabitants of Earth. As a consequence of melted ice, the level of the ocean will rise, which will lead to the flooding of many territories on Earth inhabited by people. In addition, there's quite a version that the formations in Antarctica have been created and are created by aliens. After all, their spaceships need to fly somewhere to get to their underground bases. Everyone knows that alternative scientists have long talked about cities built by aliens underground. Could it be that half a century later, aliens have returned to their underground territory and made a hole of a staggering size? It's almost impossible to find aliens among the ice. Then maybe it's not for nothing that they've settled in Antarctica and used the ice holes as airfields. Several years ago, geologists and scientists from NASA found a giant underground lake in the west of Antarctica, in Marie Birdland. It's not filled with water, as many have already imagined, but with magma. In fact, it's a real mystery why such a reservoir of molten rocks exists on the territory of Marie Birdland and across the Ross Glacier at all if there are not any faults and areas of tectonic activity. Logically, there's nothing there to support lava lakes of this size. Scientists are trying to find an explanation for this phenomenon. They suggest that such a lake is some product of plume movement, a mushroom-shaped structure or a vertical flow of super hot and light matter in the Earth's mantle. Its high speed and temperature can break through the rocks of the continent crust and come out on the surface of the planet, which in turn causes volcanic eruptions and generates such underground lakes. Sounds good, but who knows? Maybe soon there will be other explanations. Living beings unknown to science. Not long ago, researchers explored Mount Erebus, an active volcano on Ross Island. Yes, there are active volcanoes in Antarctica. Mount Erebus, by the way, is the second highest volcano on the continent. Scientists have discovered a vast network of caves melted into the ice by volcanic steam. As scientists examined them, they collected DNA samples that matched mosses, algae, and some small invertebrates. But not all could be identified. Several of the DNA sequences found didn't match any organisms now known. What are they then? Where'd they come from? Could it be the work of aliens again? In any case, so far this means that there may be plant or animal species in those caves, hitherto unknown to science and waiting to be discovered. And then, perhaps a door to a whole new world will open. A dead place. American scientists from the University of Colorado and Brigham Young University in Utah made an interesting discovery not so long ago. In the ice of Antarctica, they discovered an inexplicable phenomenon, perhaps the deadest place on our planet. Such conclusions they drew from a study of 204 samples of soil collected from the area of the Shackleton Glacier, about 500 kilometers from the South Pole. Most of the explored soil contained a diverse mixture of microbes, but about 20% of the analyzed samples didn't contain any signs of life. Even more surprising was that not only were there no microbes in the soil, but scientists couldn't find any evidence of microbial DNA either. Initially, the researchers thought they'd made a mistake, but subsequent attempts to find any evidence of life, even a year after the initial analysis, were also unsuccessful. According to the head of the expedition, Byron Adams, they found a place on Earth that could have developed and supported life for millions of years, but this didn't happen. If there was anything in this soil, it's now definitely no longer functioning. Cells no longer live, divide, or perform any metabolic functions. It is, indeed, a dead zone. Fires in Antarctica. A new study shows that 75 million years ago, when dinosaurs still lived on Earth, Forest fires raged in Antarctica. Are the fires in Antarctica some kind of joke? Not at all. Scientists have found that between 100 and 66 million years ago, the area of modern Antarctica had no ice sheets and was dominated by a tropical and mild climate. During one of the warmest periods on the planet, the late Cretaceous, dinosaurs walked on James Ross Island in Antarctica, and ferns, flowering plants, and conifers grew there. However, some of these forests were completely burned by fires. Scientists have been able to find charcoal fragments. What could have caused the fires? There could be many causes, including meteorite falls, lightning strikes, and of course, volcanic activity. Alternatively, flammable vegetation and high oxygen levels contributed to the fires. Or was there still another cause beyond our minds? This is not yet known for certain. Blood Falls. In 1911, in the middle of a lifeless, icy terrain, Australian geologist Griffith Taylor discovered a very eerie place. Through the thick snow, untouched by centuries, a scarlet liquid, somewhat similar to blood, was breaking through. Researchers spent a century studying the nature of the blood-red liquid in this place. Taylor himself suggested at the time that the color of the water was influenced by microscopic red algae living in it. But where in this region would bloody traces come from if no red algae were found there? Actually, Blood Falls originates from a large lake located 1 kilometer from Blood Falls at a depth of about 400 meters under the ice. As it turns out, the mineralized formation water contains a large percentage of iron. Thus, when the water comes into contact with oxygen in the air, the iron begins to rust and stain the water that color. Despite this, UFOologists have a completely different version. According to their claims, the only reason for the blood stream in Antarctica is the actions of aliens. Aliens want to intimidate people, so they'll finally stop visiting the icy continent and do not interfere with their experiments on their secret bases. It sounds a little delusional, but such theories also exist. That's all, guys. Would you like to go to Antarctica? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.
Oh, it's over. I fell asleep. Thanks for watching. Peace. I need to go to bed.